What the hell is up? It's Last Minute Matt in last minute fashion, MMA breakdown. Fresh out of the cold plunge, well, what I like to do is the really hot for about 45 minutes, close to an hour, then jump in the cold plunge for about 2 minutes, and then back into the hot. It helps increase testosterone, all that good stuff, recovery, blah, blah, blah. The new trendy thing, cold plunge. And I've been doing it for about a month now, and I gotta say, it's fucking great. Yeah, absolutely. Fucking great. Got a lot to break down today. This episode is brought to you by 405 Buds, 116 North Main Street, Stillwater, Oklahoma. A lot of great deals going on. Clocking in my weight at 188.2, which means I lost my bet with Tommy Britton. Yes, that is correct. I made a bet with Tommy Britton and I lost it. Just know that. I will try to make a new bet and continue to push myself and challenge myself and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, 188.2, and I feel like that's important because it's important to you, I think. This weekend, UFC 283, Saturday, we have Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. You got Glover coming off a loss against Jiri. He lost his belt. It was a very close fight to the end, and Glover lost it to a rear naked choke on the ground. And Jamal Hill's coming off a spectacular win against Thiago Santos, which in that fight, I believe, was like the coming out party for Jamal Hill. Yeah, you seen him knock out Johnny Walker, and he looked really fucking good, and a lot of people started recognizing, but we needed to see him do something to somebody that's even more elite, and who more elite than a guy that took John Jones to the 5th round on one fucking leg. Crazy, right? That was Thiago Santos, and Jamal Hill beat the shit out of him, in my opinion. To be honest, I feel like I got Jamal Hill in that fight, and I think it's probably going to be either TKO or KO. And then you got Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo fighting for the 27th time. We all know how one guy beat one guy, the other guy beat the other guy, and the other guy beat the other guy, and the other guy beat the other guy, and it's kind of been going on like that. So it's a toss-up for me, and I honestly pick Moreno because I think a lot of people might be counting him out this time around. We got Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns is coming off a close loss to Khamzat Chimaev. Badass fucking fight. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you go watch it. It seems like Chimaev did actually pull away with that win, although it was a badass fight to the end. So, and Neil Magny is coming off of a win against top contender Daniel Rodriguez with a Darce choke. Then we got Lauren Murphy versus Jessica Andrade. I like that fight a lot. You got Lauren Murphy's coming off a big win against Miesha Tate. And then her loss before that was Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko, which everybody knows is a gangster. So Lauren Murphy's been battle tested for sure. And she won her last test against Miesha Tate, top contender. That's a very notable win there. And then you got Jessica Andrade coming off of a 2-fight win streak so far against Cynthia Calavito and Amanda Lemos. Andrade has been looking pretty good after she was champ and lost her belt to Zhang Weili, which is a gangster who is now the current champ now. I expect that to be a pretty dope fight. That's gonna, it's gonna pull numbers for sure. That's a great card coming up this weekend, this Saturday. That's a UFC 283, and that's just the main card right there I broke down for you. And I can't wait to fucking watch that fucking card. It's going to be pretty lit. Now that we've discussed UFC 283, now let's get back down to, and I know we've talked about it quite often, about Tommy's last fight. Tommy's last fight at Fury FC 72. In Houston, Texas, December 8th. Like I said, I know we've talked about it a lot, about how none of us really on the team agrees with that decision. And I can tell you personally, I was there. There's a lot of things that go into this. We were fighting against a top prospect, up and coming, Daniel Cormier's teammate, who's made posts and shout outs and shared this fight. Trains out of AKA. In a sense, we all kind of feel like it was a bit of a setup. And what do I mean by a setup? Little bit of a setup due to it being short notice fight against such a tough opponent, due to the weight that it was scheduled at. This was a brand new weight that Tommy's ever fought at. It was scheduled at 175. Oh, and we were a fill-in at that. So we had weight cut issues, as you probably could assume. That's a tough fucking weight cut. Tommy walks around about 225, 230. When he's trying to stay in shape for a camp, it's about 220, 215. So you can imagine getting to 175 is fucking tough. And to be a fill-in, and it kind of being a short notice against a tough fucking opponent like that. Now, we expected the wrestle game. Trust me, we expected the grappling. We're not dumb. We trained for this. Straight up, we do fucking train for this. Now, the initial exchange, he went for a takedown. He didn't throw any strikes. He went for a takedown, Tommy stuffed it. Then it seemed like it was about to be a scrap. The guy caught Tommy a couple times. I was in the corner. I was feet away from this fight. He caught Tommy a couple of times, Jacoby Smith, and ended up getting him to the ground, getting him close to the cage. Tommy tried to battle up to his feet a couple times, getting back up to the cage and getting up. Jacoby Smith smothered him and got him back down a couple more times. Ground and pound, whatnot. Tommy's a motherfucking fighter, okay? You don't stop this fight that early. First round, and Tommy was on his way back up, and the referee decides to stop the fight. Nobody's quitting. Nobody's quitting. Our team is fighting until the death. And especially when it gets going tough, we thrive in those moments. Our team thrives in the tough moments, the brawls, the dog fights. And that was about to happen. I mean, Jacoby Smith was getting tired and sweaty already within the first round. It was hilarious. Within the first 2 minutes, Jacoby Smith was starting to wear down. There was a lot of muscle packed on the kid. And he has a big guy that he had to wrestle. And it probably wasn't fucking easy. Tommy's on his way back up to his feet. The ref decides to call it quits. I don't understand why. The whole crowd didn't understand why. Especially since the fight before that, homeboy gets dropped 6 times in every round. They let that fight keep going. It just goes to show that there is favoritism in the sport. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So, there's favoritism. Early stoppage, my opinion. Period. Other MMA news regarding the UFC. Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo is on hold. We all kind of know Aljo's like that. It's just Aljo. Aljo is like that. He's iffy. Aljo is iffy, to say the least, and I'm sure everybody knows. So we got Sean O'Malley also on standby. Now, the mix-up with those fights is we got Chito Vera going into his next fight, a very good tough fight with Corey Sandhagen. It kind of holds up the division when you don't have the champ fighting the returning Triple C. Kind of holds up the top of that division, but it's okay because we got a lot of inner workings going on around there. Like, a lot of things can happen within those 6 fighters, 5 fighters that I just mentioned: Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera, Corey Sandhagen, Henry Cejudo, Aljamain Sterling. Those fucking 5 people are, it's going to be very interesting to see how those 5 people within the UFC in this next year, how it's going to play out. It's going to be very interesting, so keep an eye on all of that. In my opinion, I really do like Sean out of all of those people. I like O'Malley out of all of those people, even though we know how good fucking Henry Cejudo can be and is. I mean, let's be honest. Henry Cejudo is probably the greatest out of all of those guys. And I would assume that all of those guys want to test themselves against Henry Cejudo. And apparently Aljo was just he had a bicep tear, a partial bicep tear, according to his camp and him for the last few fights, and he just needed a couple extra, like 4 weeks to heal up. That's all that means. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of stuff happen within this next year between those 5 fighters, and I really love Sean. I feel like Sean O'Malley is the next champ. I don't know if he's going to get it at the first shot at the belt, but I do believe he will be one of the next champs, for sure. I feel like he beats Cheeto Vera in the rematch. I feel like he beats Corey Sandhagen because they're pretty much the same people, but Sean seems to be a little quicker and a little more straight and precise and just a little more trickier. Sandhagen has all that as well, but Sandhagen has had a lot of exposed. He's been exposed quite a bit, so I feel like there's a lot to pick apart on Sandhagen. Not saying he ain't one of the best up there, because he fucking definitely is. So let's see how all that goes. Let's see. We got Jon Jones versus Gane. Main event, Saturday, March 4th, UFC 285. I get it. All of you Jon Jones fans out there, which is everybody, we all think, for some reason, that Jon Jones is invincible. But there's a lot of factors that play into this, and a lot of people think that Jon Jones is just gonna smoke Gane. And I'm baffled as to how many people think that Gane doesn't have a chance. A lot of reasons. See, a lot of people look very fucking impossible to beat in a certain weight class. Like Jon Jones, I feel like he's impossible to beat at 205 pounds. Like I felt like Izzy for a long time was impossible to beat at 185 pounds. As soon as Izzy moved up, it showed that, oh yeah, this guy is human. And now we got Jon doing the similar thing, but just a weight class above each of those situations. Moving to heavyweight, probably going to weigh in at 245, 250, 255, maybe. But here's the problem. Gane, Ciryl Gane, he is Jon Jones, just bigger and stronger. Right? See, we know Jon Jones has sparred with all of the heavyweights, and the rumors out there is that he's pretty much had his way with the heavyweights. Okay, we got that. But there's a difference between a heavyweight trying to take you out. There's a difference between that. You can spar heavyweights all you want. But what are heavyweights known for? Getting in there and trying to finish it within the first couple rounds, right? Sparring, heavyweights probably ain't trying to finish their sparring partners. So there's something you got to think about there, right? I'm fucking positive that his heavyweight sparring partners weren't trying to take him out, being that he's a light heavyweight anyways. So when you got a heavyweight trying to take you out, and a heavyweight that is pretty much you, because look at Gane. Gane is Jon Jones. Gane is Jon. Jon and Gane are the same people. Jon is Gane. Gane is Jon. One difference. Gane's bigger. Gane's stronger for sure. And Gane might be cutting weight to make 265. Yeah, let that sink in. So, my opinion, I think Gane outclasses him. I think Jon might get a takedown. But I think Gane has all the tools to beat Jon, because Gane has Jon's tools besides the wrestling aspect. But you don't really need that good of wrestling if you're that much larger. You see what I'm saying? You're that much bigger, you might not need as much technique. That's all I'm saying, okay? And I will put my house on Gane. I would put my house on Gane in this fight. And I do actually have a bet out there on Gane. But, that's neither here nor there. Fuck it. Forget I even said it. And we're back. Some of the latest MMA and UFC related news. James Krause. Latest news on James Krause. He gambled on his teammate with the insight of his teammate having an injury. He has told other people to gamble on his teammate due to the fact that his teammate had an injury. Now, we don't know if the teammate was in on the gamble as well, who fought, but based on his injury, James Krause gambled and gave other people insights about the injury and about when the fight was probably going to stop. James Krause apparently directed these people into betting, so won a lot of people money, and it was all on an insight of an injury. Now, what gets interesting is how many people tuned in and betted on that specific thing, which red flagged the system. It seems like this has been going on for a while too. I met James Krause, cool dude. Actually, I met him at Fury events. It's not looking great for James Krause. They'll put you in fucking federal prison right there. You're fucking with something crazy. So that's the latest on James Krause. What I'm gonna get into now is the TFC fight news. Tyvon Morrison with Sensei Ty, aka his last fight was about a year back, boxing pro match against Austin Reed, which was a loss. He's eyeing a return, and he's been taking it serious, getting back into the gym, and trying to reinvent himself and get himself there. So we're looking out for Tyvon to make his return. And Tommy Britton is so far starting the year off. Tommy's taking a bit of time off. He's gonna focus on recovering and reinventing himself as well. And right now he's just kind of reflecting on about everything he probably needs to do leading up into the next camp and the next fights. Now my fight, me fighting again, I planned on having a fight scheduled at least by now. I don't. There was a few things on the horizon. I was approached with the Tyson Southern fight. I accepted it internally. Went to my team, asked if this was the right thing to do, because that's what you do as a team. The team felt like it was a setup. He has a better record than me, whatnot, more fights, better experience at a pro level. They turned me away from it, but it seemed like for a while I was the only one who was going to take that fight. I was the only one that wanted to take that fight. I was like, they were looking for that fight for a couple months, it seems like, and nobody wanted to take it. And it seems like I was the only one who said yes. Didn't get that fight. I was also offered to fill in a replacement against Brandon Wright for MMA at 170. Now, for those who don't know, I fought Brandon Wright already for my first MMA fight ever. He beat the shit out of me, fucked my rib up, gave me my first humble piece of pie, and is pretty much the motivating and driving factor behind me moving forward and eventually scoring my own wins. So I initially turned down the offer because it's at MMA, and I feel like I'm just not big enough for those guys at 170, and because a lot of those guys are cutting 30 to 40 pounds anyways, and they just seem to be a little bit stronger and very good at wrestling, and I'm not the best at wrestling. So MMA, I initially turned it down for my second pro fight, but mentioned that I would box him because I did get the offer a couple months back several months back I got the offer to box him, and I initially wanted to do that one. I will definitely box Brandon Wright, and I accepted that, and we put that out there to his manager. His manager reached out to us, and we put that out there to his manager, and his manager seemed like they were wanting that. They were like, we might take that if we can't fill in a replacement or find anybody. So I was about to have a boxing match, which would be 2 weeks from now or tomorrow. It was going to be against the guy who gave me my first loss, and it turns out that it might not actually be happening for sure. So right now, I also got one more offer for February against Terry Britton or something like that. And he's fought a lot of good people, pro fighter. He's 6'3" at 156 pounds is what they wanted me to fight him at. Offered me a little bit of money. I never said no to it, so I'm kind of still sitting on it. I like boxing. I think I'm better with my stand-up and my hands mostly anyways. So that's what I really want to do. I want to take boxing. I want to go in there and I want to box somebody. So that's what I want to do. I might be fighting. I might be boxing in February for sure. And that's pretty much it. I would also like to shout out to all my sponsors. Public Enemy Kennels, Sean Lewis, Nature's Healing, 405 Trims, Juan Hernandez, Jimmy Chastain with Chastain Construction, Be True Merchandise, Sean Shaheen, 405 Buds, Stillwater, South Penn, and also Northwest 10th. And also would like to shout out to one of my favorite sponsors, Flavs and Roswell Genetics. They always be hooking me up with the best legal medical marijuana gas that you can't handle, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Please like and subscribe. Give us a little bit of a push. That would be nice. This is a last minute Matt in last minute fashion with some MMA breakdowns. I'll catch you later.